Chapter 11. My senior year in high school, I was a classic 97-pound weakling. Actually, I was 96 pounds. A Charles Atlas before pitcher, if there was one. And no great shakes as an athlete, as I've mentioned. While brother David earned every varsity letter imaginable, I set new school records in the Nerd Olympics. My total ineptitude at any and all athletic endeavors was the stuff of legend. When it came time to choose up sides for team sports, I made sure to bring a book. A brand new softball position was created for me by some helpful classmates. Far, far right field. As in, if you can recognize the batter, you're too close. Then, my senior year, the powers that were in my high school deigned to augment the boys' physical education program with a weight training class. It changed my life. The clouds of my despair parted, and the golden sunshine of hope shone through. Angel choirs sang power chords from somewhere off screen. I felt that my prayers had finally been heard and answered. For here was a miracle no less than Max von Sydow making Sal Mineo take up his bed and walk in the greatest story ever told. Because I would finally, in my last year of public school, be spared the daily degradations of team sports. And because the weight training class was led by the most beautiful man I'd ever seen, Coach Newcomb. Dick Newcomb was a part-time ski instructor. He had a face like Buster Crabbe circa 1936, and a body like Steve Reeves in Hercules Unchained. A Michelangelo marble with a tan. The sight of Coach Newcomb in his uniform, white t-shirt, and stretch shorts inspired me to bodybuilding, and then some. I whacked myself raw to fantasies in which Coach's magnificence was mine to explore, in which he held me fast between his massive thighs, in which his pale blue eyes stared into mine, and he said, "You're a beautiful boy, Johnny Ray. Let no one tell you differently." Mental pictures of the straps of Coach's jock, quite discernible through the fabric of his shorts, interrupted me while I puzzled over an equation in Algebra 2, Trig, and erections arrived without invitation. And in PE, I threw myself into bench presses and barbell curls with a fervor bordering on mania. And as if the opportunity to spend one rapturous hour per day in the same weight room with Coach, to watch him walk, to feel the occasional touch of his big beefy hand while I strained at the leg press machine, were not enough, and it would have been. To my surprise and delight, my workout soon began to show results. Biceps raised their dual heads where once there had been none. The embarrassing concavity of my rib cage began to fill itself in. Soon it was no longer possible to count my ribs from 50 paces. My heart leapt within my rapidly improving chest, and I wondered why I'd never thought of it before. If I could never actually be athletic, then by golly, I'd at least look athletic. And when Coach Newcomb slapped me on the back and said, "Seeing some real improvement there, Russo," it was all I could do to keep my gym shorts dry. Once, I saw Coach emerge from his office to break up a locker room towel fight, wearing only his tiny white shorts. I covered a hair-trigger erection with my towel in the very nick of time. Coach's big, long-toed feet were bare. The chest I had longed to view was suddenly visible to me, and he was, it seemed, even more splendid in the flesh than in my wild teenage imaginings. After quelling up the disturbance, Coach turned to me, I, of course, was in no way involved in the fracas, and said, "How's it going, Russo?" And he was gone. The sight of Coach so nearly nude fueled my masturbatory fantasies through my freshman year in college. I occasionally considered confessing my feelings to Coach. I composed letter after letter. "Oh, how do I love you! Oh, how my heart and mind are filled with you!" and burned them one by one. I imagined striding into Coach's office, closing the door behind me, and saying, "I love you. There, I've said it." The closest I've ever came to actually confessing my love to Coach Newcomb, by mid-semester I was calling it love, was to give him a Christmas card. I briefly considered actually buying him a gift, but decided that might be too much, might put the Coach off. He was one of the few people on earth who treated me like a regular guy, and I feared I might jeopardize my status by doing something he might consider unseemly. Besides, what could I give him? Socks? Monogrammed hankies? Diamonds? The moon? My throbbing 16-year-old heart and the small but ever more wiry body that housed it? In the end, I just gave him the card. I bought one especially for him. I considered the 10 to a box baby Jesus with glitter on the halo cards Clara bought quite inappropriate. It was large but simple, pure white with peace in gold Old English script. On the blank inside of the card, I wrote, "Merry Christmas, Dick." Oh, how I agonized over the decision to call him Dick instead of Coach. Your friend, another big decision, Johnny Ray Rousseau. I waited until the locker room was nearly cleared before I went to the coach's office, the card hidden in my moist armpit beneath my Levi's jacket. My heart pulsed somewhere behind my Adam's apple as I held out the card and said, "Merry Christmas, Coach." The inside of a Christmas card was one thing. Calling him Dick right out loud was another. Coach walked around his desk. You could have reheated leftovers in the warmth of his smile. "Thank you, Rousseau," he said. He accepted the card, and with his other hand he squeezed my shoulder. He was so big, so very strong, and I wanted so very much to throw my arms around his impossibly narrow waist and cry out, "I love you." Instead, I managed to rasp something approximating, "You're welcome," then turned and floated from the room. He hadn't had to smile, you know. He hadn't had to get up and walk over to me and touch me. He might well have said, "Thanks, just put it on the desk," hardly looking up at all, leaving me standing there like the silly, love-battered teenager I was, completely at a loss for a graceful exit. But he didn't, God love him. For that, for encouraging wimpy little me, intentionally and otherwise, and for giving me the one and only A I ever in 12 years of school received in PE, I would like to take this opportunity to say, good night, Coach Newcomb, wherever you are.